First time I had this dish was when I moved from the Midwest to Boston, Massachusetts. First time I went to a Chinatown in my life, and I always loved Chinese barbecue, but I never had it before because in China I lived in the north, and this is more of a Cantonese thing. So when I got to Chinatown, Boston, and I saw the roast ducks, the roast porks, the soy sauce chickens just hanging at the window of these barbecue restaurants, I hid it inside, and that's basically all I ate for the next half a year I was there. One particular dish I absolutely adored was their golden crispy pig. If you never had it before, it's these big slabs of pork that is hanging at a Chinese restaurant, and when they chop it up, you can hear the crunch of the skin, and when you put it in your mouth, it's so delightfully juicy, but at the same time, that skin is just got that just immaculate crunch. This dish is actually really super easy to make, and I'm gonna show you how to do it. First of all, you need a pork belly, and this is it. And this is something that you typically will not see at your local ShopRite or Kroger or whatever you got near you. This is something you probably have to go get at a butcher shop, and this is what you need. So this is a typical pork belly. You see the nice piece of skin on top. You got the fat right before the lean meat, and there's still some of the red bones in here. And I prefer to have the bones in because I feel like that's gonna give it a lot more juice. It's gonna make it a lot more tender. And this is something that we love to cook with in Chinese cooking because it has three different textures. It has the skin that's a little bit chewy, gelatinous. It has the fat, which is nice and melty, and the meat, the lean meat itself. And we love cooking these three layers together because the taste of all three layers in one bite is really just transformative. First of all, what we're gonna do is we're gonna make the marinade for the pork belly. And the marinade is really, really simple. Tablespoon of Shaoxing wine, teaspoon of salt, teaspoon of sugar, teaspoon of white pepper, 1 teaspoon of Chinese 5 spice. Give that a nice mix. And this is gonna serve as your marinade. Ooh, that's strong, just the way we like it. And we're gonna just cover the bottom side of the pork belly. Cover the bottom, do the sides. Do not put this on the skin because this is gonna make the skin really, really dark. It's gonna be like a liquidy tanning bed for the pork. There you go. And now we got to prep the pork for a little nap. And we're gonna do that by just creating a little sleeping bag for the pork. So just get some tin foil. There we go. And we are going to take our pork and put it, and we're gonna cover it on all the 4 sides. Give it a little wall, maybe like ½ an inch above the meat. And what this is gonna do is it's gonna focus the heat of the oven onto the pork skin. And that's where we want all the attention because that's where the star is. There you go. Now, we're gonna do something, and this is one of the tricks of this dish. This is what's gonna help to guarantee that your pork belly is gonna come out, the skin part is gonna be beautifully crunchy. We have to get all the water out of the pork belly, out of the top of the pork belly. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put some holes on the top. And if you don't have like a meat tenderizer, you can just do this trick, get some bamboo skewers, and we're just gonna jab a bunch of holes. We're not gonna jab it too deep, okay? Just so it pierces the surface in the water. We want all the moisture out of the top of the pork, otherwise the skin is just not gonna crisp up. So just take your thingies and just jab it everywhere. Make sure it's piercing the skin. As many little holes as you can, because the more little holes you have, the crunchier and better this pork skin is gonna be. Okay, so that's done. Now we're gonna touch up the top part of the skin, and we're gonna do that by adding a tablespoon of rice vinegar. And then a teaspoon of salt. And just a dash of baking soda. And this is really important. This is secret number 2 to this dish, because what the baking soda is gonna do is it's gonna soften the top of the pork. So the skin is gonna be softer. So that means the crunch is gonna be more puffy and airy instead of just a hard shell on the outside. So pinch of baking soda, there you go. Give that a little mix. And we're gonna take that and brush this on the outside of the pork. Okay, there you go. Next part, also really important. We gotta let it rest and basically dry out. So put this in your fridge for about 12 hours. So basically overnight. We can't do anything with it right now. And I know this very well because I tried. I was impatient. I was like, come on, it should be fine. And then I did it and it failed, okay? So don't do what I did, learn from my mistakes. Overnight, we'll see you tomorrow. So after chilling for about 12 to 24 hours, take the pork out, and it's gotta be very, very, very dry. I mean, this thing has gotta be drier than the Sahara Desert to be able to go into the oven and have it crisp up. So when you touch it after it comes out of the fridge, it should be pretty cold and hard, which this is. The skin seems pretty darn dry. Now, I know we poked like just a bunch of holes in this before we put this into the fridge, but that is really the key, the second key anyway, to a really fluffy, crispy pork skin. So we're just gonna go at it again. I mean, we just wanna mutilate this thing, okay? I just wanna make sure this thing is as dead as it can be. I wanna be able to see through it. I wanna be able to make sure that this skin is crisp up. Like, do this until you feel like you had a great workout. Okay, I think I'm good. Feel like it's good enough, put this on a little rack inside your pan, and we're just gonna cover the outside, the top, cover it with salt. And you can either use rock salt or coarse salt. And we're just gonna cover the entire surface of the skin with it. And the purpose of this is to draw out any remaining moisture that's left inside the skin. Just cover it up. It's not gonna make this extra salty or anything. It's just a baking method. And make sure to cover it tight with salt, because if you don't, what's gonna happen is that part of your meat is gonna hit the heat and it's going to burn. So think of this as a salty, porky sunscreen. We're good. Oven, 400 degrees, 40 minutes. "40 minutes up. Let's check on our pork. Hello, beautiful. Take the salt crust off, revealing the juicy meat down below. Ooh, that is glistening. That's what we like to see. Shine in the spotlight, you sexy piece of pork, you. Okay, let's take my pork belly, which is beautiful, by the way, right now. Get rid of the foil and put it directly on the rack here. That's a pretty piece, right? All the 5 spice, the pepper, everything is soaked into the bottom half. Wipe off the salt, wipe off any of the excess moisture. We're gonna put the oven on broil, and then we're gonna stick this back in for about 20 minutes, or until all the skin is really, really crispy on top. Basically right now, this is done. The only thing we're trying to do is get the skin as crispy as possible. We're gonna stick this back into the oven and we're gonna let that roast. Within about 10-15 minutes, you're gonna start hearing crackling sounds coming from the oven. That's a good sign. And after that becomes nice and toasty, it's time to feast like kings. When you're cutting it, make sure to flip it over. Remove the ribs first. That is juicy. Look at that. And then I can cut it. That's a good sound. So here you go, like a really nice piece of juicy pork belly. See all that juice that's in there? That's leaking out, and the crispy skin on top. I'm gonna just get it on its own. Here we go, ultimate test. This is so good. This is so good. We have succeeded, ladies and gentlemen. The skin is not hard. It's not like you're chewing on a piece of hard rubber or something. And make sure when you cook this dish, you serve it right away, because if it gets cold, it's gonna turn hard. But right now, just munch on the skin. It's airy and light, full of flavor. The rest of the pork, juicy. You taste the spices, perfectly flavorful. The skin, there's the airiest skin. It's like eating a little porky chip. It just dissolves in your mouth. I kept the rib part because I want to gnaw on this rib part. This is where all the flavor is, right here, right by the bones. Juicy as meat. I almost like that more than the skin. All right, so keys to this recipe. You gotta punch a lot of holes in the pork, okay? You gotta do it, just annihilate it. Another thing, gotta make sure it's 100% dry. So leave it at least one night in the fridge, 12 hours. Some people like to do 24 just to make sure it's completely dry. Utilize the baking soda and the vinegar to tenderize the skin, okay? If you don't, you might come out with really crunchy skin. Again, guys, this is a dish that a lot of people look at it